Well, hello and welcome back. We are continuing looking at SQL development, particularly in the MySQL MariaDB world. But a lot of this is more or less going to be applicable regardless of what other database you're in. This is an area where it will be a little different syntactically in some of the other databases because we're going to start talking about store procedures today. And this is actually something that wasn't even supported by MySQL until a version, which now it's been for a while. So, but there was a point where it didn't even support them, and I think it probably helps to start with what is a store procedure. A store procedure is roughly, it's a procedure, it's a function essentially. Although functions are a little different, and we'll talk about those. But a store procedure is essentially a script. It is, instead of us doing, we could do like select star from address. And then we could do select star from, from app user where, T1 ID equals, let's just say 1. So we can do this combination of, we can sit there and start typing multiple commands essentially. And we can also do this outside of the database. We could have some sort of a ODBC, JDBC, type of connection or native connection into the database and have whatever language we use, C#, Java, Python, whatever, actually send commands and put together a series of commands and some related logic based on that. But that's not always, it's not always the best approach. It's not always an option. And, the third thing is that it's actually faster often to do stuff within the database than to do this back and forth calls. If you have to pull a result set out of the database into your application, wherever it's at, do some work, make a couple other calls into the database, take the results, do some more work. It's easier. You've got all that transfer from database to application, and it's nice to not have that. So that's why we have stored procedures. Actually, it's probably more simple than that. It was just so that we can do a little more, we can put some real logic into our database and not have to worry about another language. Now, the first thing I need to explain, because of the way it works with store procedures, is there's a thing called delimiter. Now, currently, you can see if I do select star from app user where equals 1, this semicolon is my delimiter. That says that, hey, I'm at the end of a line. If I use the delimiter command and say I want to use this // now when I do that select star, notice I've got this little arrow that says, hey, I'm looking for more. Like, you didn't finish the line. I can't execute it yet. So now if I do that, now when I do that // it'll give me, allow me to do multiple calls. And it means that as soon as I put a semicolon, it's not going to end. So I could even do here, I can do select star from address and then do a semicolon. And now what I see here, and this allows me to actually put together multiple things. And you can see here where first it grabbed from app user, and then it did the call select from star address. So it's actually saying that, hey, each of these, this is a command because I've got my line terminator of a semicolon, but the delimiter is going to tell me when I'm actually going to execute it. So that allows me to actually batch together a couple things, which is needed when we get into store procedures. Now, the first thing that we want to do in a store procedure is, let's just keep it very simple. So what does one look like? Well, once we've set our delimiter, and you got to make sure you do that, otherwise you'll have some issues once you start throwing semicolons in here. It's pretty easy. So I'm going to do create procedure, and I'm just going to call this, I'm going to call it my tables. And I can give it parameters, but I'm not at this point. And enter. Now I'm going to do a begin. And then I'm just going to say show tables. I put my semicolon like I normally would. I do an end. And so now this is my procedure. My tables, begin, show tables, end. And I can come back. I can do my little completion. And it doesn't like it in the end. So I need to do probably a semicolon here. No, what did I miss? Create procedure, my tables. So let's put you there. Oh, shoot, it's because that's not that. Okay, so now I've got that. My mistake. I forgot how to do show tables. And so now I've created this procedure. Now let me change my delimiter back to a semicolon. And now I've created this procedure, which let me do it like this, just so that you have it. So delimiter is dot. And let's do this. Clean this up a little bit because we can probably come back to this. Okay. So now we have a procedure. And if we wanted to look, there's a couple of different ways we can do this. And the one is we can do show procedure status, I believe it is. Whoops, I got to type it right. And I can see that here I have this table in the database, and it's a little hard to read here, but rough. Let's see if we open that up a little bit. Database is tutorial. The name is my tables. It's a procedure. The definer, so that's who's the user that created it. When was it modified, created, security type. It's got some additional stuff that we don't really care as much about. So we have this table now, this procedure now called my tables. And in order to do it, to run it, we can do call my tables, throw a semicolon, and so now it goes in and it does a show tables. Now, if we were to go in and try to create it again, so if we go do this, now when it comes through, it says my tables already exist. So what we can do is, let's see, so we're still in that delimiter, good. So we can also we can do create or replace procedure my table, and it's going to be, let's see, let's say use tutorial. And so we can do that. So now it's going to say I'm going to jump into tutorial and do tables. So now if I take the same thing, let's leave it at that for now. Oops, I don't need to change my delimiter. So I can do that. Let's make sure that it pastes in. It does. And I do use is not allowed in store procedures. And so here we're saying where, yes, you can't use everything. There's not, and the problem here is that my store procedure lives in a specific database. And so I can't just jump in. But what I can do, and so let's just look at the same thing. If I say, what are my databases? I don't know what I have as an option here. Oh, so information schema. So let's say I use information schema. Okay, so now I'm there. If I do show tables, notice I haven't set my delimiter back. So now if I do call, let's go back to where I did that call. Let's just do this. Whoops. Delimiter is now back to here. And where we do our call that worked. Here we go, call my tables. Now we're going to find that access denied for user to database information schema. Well, I'm not able to see it, but it's also not calling it properly. I have to actually say, tell it what database it was in. and then I can call it. So there's a couple of things we have some limits to, but it's mostly within a database in the MySQL MariaDB world. We're going to do some work with it, work on tables there. If we want to refer to something in another database, then we have to explicitly give it a name, which in this case, like information schema dot or tutorial dot, to tell us which database we're in. And we could do that all around. We could do create or replace procedure tutorial dot my tables, and we can do it there. So let's see, show tables. Let's say, let's do, I wonder if we can do, what was that? Show procedure. I wonder if it'll allow us to do that one. It may not. We'll find out. So let's take that. Oh, okay, so it allowed us to do that. So now if we do call, where's our call? Here we go. And so it does work. So show procedure status. So we came in and we show list of tables. And then we get our procedure status. So we are able to, essentially, batch up a couple of commands. Now there are other things we can do that are not necessarily gonna, like, we can do this. Let's do this. Let's go back to this one. So let's go back to our, let me do this. So that's my tables. Now let's do my data. And let's do select star from address, select star from app user. What are our tables? And let's say look at type. Look up type. Oh, not my date, my data. Let's create that guy or gal. Get our delimiter back, and now we're going to do a call my data. And we can see that each of those selects comes through. Now we can send it something. So now we can do, let's call it ID int. And we can do select. Let's do it with an underscore just to make it easier. And I think we're going to, and I'm just going to go simple right now. We're going to get more complicated on our parameters next time around, but let's see where, what is our address ID is T1 ID. Okay. T1 ID equals, whoops, ID equals underscore ID. Let's call this get address. So now if I call get address, and if I don't give it a parameter, it's going to say that, hey, because I'm not in the right place. Let me go ahead and use tutorial first, so I don't have to specify who I am. And here it tells me incorrect number of arguments, expected one, got 0. So it even tells you how many expected. So I'm going to do get address 2. And now I can see that now I've passed a parameter in. So now I'm giving it something a little more useful as far as my procedures go. I think that's where we're going to stop today, because we're going to start getting into a little bit more fun stuff with this. It does go beyond this, how we can actually start working with our data a little bit more and get a little bit more into how we deal with parameters and things like that. There is a lot to learn about these, so we will definitely be spending a little bit of time on stored procedures, and we'll see a lot of the same things as we get into functions, and then we'll even do a little bit of trigger-related stuff as we're and other things as we're moving along. But hey, each day we're just getting a little bit better, learning a few more things, and slogging our way through this. So hopefully you learned a couple things today, and you come back next time, and we just continue learning our way through this until we're all masters of some sort. That being said, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time.